Okay, thank you. Welcome to the special meeting of the Springfield City Council. It is now 5:10 on Monday, November 23rd. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilor Gomez. Absent. Councilor Whitfield.
Present.
Present. Councilor Davila.
Present.
Present. Councilor Fenton. Absent. Councilor Curran. Absent. Councilor Ramos. Absent. Councilor Walsh. Absent. Councilor Williams.
Present.
Present. Councilor Allen.
Present.
Present. Councilor Letterman.
Present.
Present. Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Councilor Brown. Absent. Councilor Hurst.
Present. Can we have a motion by one of my colleagues to go into executive session? If somebody is looking at the agenda, if they could read the reason as to why we're going into executive session, and please state that we will not be returning, it will be greatly appreciated. Does anybody have the agenda?
President,
Yes.
move that we enter executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation that would have a detrimental effect on our litigating position to have in public, and that we will not be returning to public session.
Second the motion.
Thank you. There's a motion made by Councilor Letterman, seconded by Councilor Edwards. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on the motion?
On going into executive session, Councilor Gomez. Absent. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton. Absent. Councilor Curran. Absent. Councilor Ramos. Absent. Councilor Walsh. Absent. Councilor Williams.
Present.
Can
Madam
you
Clerk.
say yes, Councilor Williams, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, can you please acknowledge Councilor Fenton as being present? And I don't know if it's too late for him to give a yes vote on going into executive session, but if it's not, we can ask for his vote on going into executive session as well.
Okay, I'll finish going through the roll on the motion. I'll come back, recognize Councilor Fenton, and then I'll have him vote on the motion, okay?
Thank you.
No problem. Councilor Williams, yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown. Absent. Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Councilor Fenton.
Present.
Present. Councilor Fenton, a motion was made to go into executive session stating that the council will not go back into open session and it's for the purpose of litigation strategy. Do you vote in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, councilors, if we could please log out of this link and log into the executive session link that has been sent to us by both Steve as well as myself, it would be greatly appreciated, and we will see you in a few moments. So it is now 6:37 on Monday, November 23rd. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilor Gomez. Absent. Councilor Whitfield.
Present.
Present. Councilor Davila. Absent. Councilor Fenton.
Present.
Present. Councilor Curran.
Present.
Present. Councilor Ramos.
Present.
Present. Councilor Walsh. Absent. Councilor Williams.
Present.
Present. Councilor Allen.
Present for me, and I think Councilor Walsh was trying to say present, but she was muted. So I'm present. and
Okay, I'll come back to her. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you.
Present.
Present. Present. Counselor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Counselor Brown. Absent. Counselor Hurst.
Madam Clerk,
Present. Counselor, I'm sorry, go ahead, Counselor.
no, I was going to say, Madam Clerk, can you please acknowledge Counselor Walsh and then also mention the other counselors who were deemed absent as they might have joined recently?
Counselor Gomez. Absent. Counselor Davila. Absent. Counselor Walsh.
Present, and thank you, Counselor Allen. I was definitely on mute.
Thank you. It's a benefit of being on video. I can see you.
Will the counselors and their guests please rise for a moment of silence? Will the counselors please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance
To the flag
Flag
of the United States of
States of
America
America.
and to the republic
Republic
for which it stands, one nation,
Nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice.
for all. Madam Clerk, will you please call the first item on the agenda?
The first item on the agenda is for a special permit to operate used car sales dealership at 1608 State Street.
Mr. President, can you acknowledge me so I can be able to work? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Can we please acknowledge Councilor Gomez, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Gomez.
Present, thank you.
Present.
And we also see if Councilor Davila has joined us, as I know he was on a previous executive session of the City Council.
Counselor Davila.
Okay, we will move forward.
Absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the first item on the agenda?
The first item on the agenda is for a special permit for used car sales dealership at 1608 State Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I just want to remind counselors that we will hear 20 minutes of testimony from the petitioner and those speaking in favor of the special permit, followed by 20 minutes of testimony from individuals speaking in opposition to the to the special permit. At the conclusion of the testimony, we will give the City Council an opportunity to ask questions of both those speaking in favor as well as in opposition to the special permit. Following that discussion and questions from the council, we will then ask for a motion to continue this hearing until our next regular meeting. Is there anyone present to speak in favor of this special permit? Please state your name and address for the record. And if you're speaking, you are on mute, so I cannot hear you.
Hello, my name is Doc J. Perry, 663 River Road in Agawam.
Thank you. Before you continue, Madam Clerk, can we please acknowledge Councilor Davila, who has just joined us, as present?
Counselor Davila.
Present.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Perry, the floor is yours.
All right. This is a pretty new thing to me. I've never done a Zoom before, and so this is all a little bit new, so please bear with me. I would like to open a used car lot at 1608 State Street, formerly S&B Motors. My intent there is to sell rather inexpensive cars, stuff under $4,000, $1,500 to $4,000 cars. There's a 35 car limit. I probably wouldn't have that many in inventory just because they're very expensive and hard to buy right now. But I would very much like to be able to sell cars at that location. I've been working for the last 2.5 months on the property, painting the interior, making the grounds look as good as as good as I can. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this special permit? Seeing none, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to this special permit? Madam Clerk, have we received any testimony in opposition to this special permit?
We have not received any testimony in opposition that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions from the council for the petitioner? Sorry, Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Letterman.
Unmute myself like our petitioner had to do. Sir, have you had experience? Is this a new business venture for you, or have you had other business experience?
No, my father and I had Thunderbird Motors on State Street in Springfield from around 1978 to around 1983. After leaving Springfield, my father sold the property there. We moved to Chicopee, where we had 2 lots in Chicopee. We had a mobile gas station on Granby Road, and we had another small used car lot on Meadow Street, where we were for about 20 years. This is the first time I'm looking to do this all on my own. My father recently passed.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And do you think you're going to stay in that range that you described, that particular price range? Or do you see yourself going to a different type of car?
No, we've always sold rather inexpensive cars in the family business. It just works out well to do that for us. I don't have any aspirations of selling $20,000 and $30,000 cars there, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Perry, thanks for being
Hi
with
there.
us, and please accept my condolences as well. I know
Thank
what it is to lose a father, and I'm sure he's very glad you're carrying on the family business. We
He'd love it.
Support you in doing that. And I just had 2 questions briefly. I see the planning department and has recommended approval, but they just have a couple of conditions, including putting, it looks like, a chain between, this property and the property next door. So I just wanted to make sure that you had reviewed those conditions and you were comfortable with being able to, follow those conditions.
The chain I did last week, and I looked over from 16 when the special permit was granted. I looked over Phil Drumey's list, and I did everything on the list that was required.
Okay, great. And then the other piece would just be, and it's a little different, with everything going on in the virtual hearings, but oftentimes special permit applicants will often just check in with the neighborhood council over there. And I know the Pine Point neighborhood council is very active. So I don't know if you had a chance just to check in with them, but if not, I would just recommend reaching out, letting them know, you're opening the business, and be able to just make sure they're aware of what's going on.
I hosted John Lysick and Mary and company yesterday. They came out and looked the place over, spent about a half hour talking to me about my plans for it, and they voted unanimously in favor, which really made me feel good.
That's great to hear. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. If there are no further questions before the council, can we have a motion to continue this item until our next regular meeting?
So moved.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Councilor Gomez, seconded by
Second.
Councilor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on continuing this item?
On continuing item number 1, Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown, absent. Councilor Hurst.
Yes, this item will be continued until Monday, November 7th. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is for a special permit to operate an adult use marijuana establishment at 1860 Main Street.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this item? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, City Councilors. My name is Peyton Shubrick. I'll be speaking on behalf of Six Bricks LLC this evening.
Can you please state your address, Ms. Shubrick?
Yep, 6 Only Avenue, Springfield, Massachusetts.
And so the petitioners will have 20 minutes to speak in favor of this special permit, followed by the opposition, who will have 20 minutes to speak against this special permit. The floor is yours, Ms. Shubrick.
Thank you. May I present my screen?
You may. Can we give Ms. Shubrick access? Focus Springfield to share a screen, please. Thank you.
Well, again, good evening, City Councilors. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet just yet, my name is Peyton Shubrick. I'll be reviewing Six Bricks LLC this evening for you all to get a better understanding of who we are, why we're seeking an address change, and some of the commitments we've outlined in our original host community agreement and tend to carry in to our amended host community agreement and amended special permit. By way of introduction, as I said before, my name is Peyton Shubrick. I was born and raised here in the city of Springfield. I attended Holy Cross for undergraduate. I graduated in 2015 and moved back home to Springfield, Massachusetts, and began working at Mass Mutual until the voters voted for cannabis in 2016, and became extremely interested in the industry and the ways in which I could participate in it, as well as, with the support of my family, bring something to the city of Springfield that we could truly be proud of. As we think about the name Six Bricks, I've really tried to ensure that at the forefront of all that we're doing, we're showcasing the opportunity of a local family to participate. So Six Bricks is a play on the last name Shubrick, with 6 people in my immediate family, and Shubrick being the last name. So what is Six Bricks? Six Bricks is an adult use cannabis retailer. We're here to inspire our community through people, plant, and purpose, while being a good neighborly partner. Our tagline, people, plant, and purpose, intentionally starts with people because they're at the center of all that we do as we think about educating customers that come into our space, as well as taking care of our proposed employees. We have a clear vision to connect people and product for the best experience every time. Understanding that the cannabis industry is evolving. And as we think about the different methods of consumption, we truly want to ensure that folks are aware of how they're consuming and what that means for them. The big ideas as we think about Six Bricks is we are 100% owned by people of color, we're majority owned by women, and our goal is to be an adult use cannabis destination, to really become a trusted advisor for our customers as they think about consuming cannabis. We have a focus on hiring from the city of Springfield, keeping local dollars here in the city, as well as participating in an emerging industry. I think it's extremely important to note, as social equity applicants, the industry currently is 85% owned and operated by white men. As we think about that and dive into that number, more so what you're seeing is multi-state operators and major corporations that are able to come into communities, have executive teams that don't live here, and essentially increase their revenue, but none of that money stays within the community. Our team is extremely diverse and focused on bringing their time, talent, and treasures to ensuring the success of Six Bricks. You have Irene Banks, who's our interior designer and brand ambassador, Fred Shubrick, who's our chief procurement officer, myself acting as CEO and founder, Taylor Shubrick, who's our head of community responsibility, John Delaney, who's our safety director, Dawn Shubrick, who's our executive secretary, Elena Jimenez, who's our chief financial officer, and it should be noted she's also my partner and a venture capitalist owning Optimal Labs, as well as a transportation company out of New Bedford, Massachusetts, as well as Jack Wysocki, who's acting as our chief operating officer. The only other individual, a part of our executive team that's not pictured here, is Jossie Sellers. He's our head of research and development. Should also be noted that he's participating in the cannabis industry as CEO and founder of Treevit, that has a state provisional license as we think about delivery. And so what you're seeing is that we have, like I said, a diverse team of individuals coming together that are really going to be able to propel Six Bricks and make it something that the industry hasn't seen just yet. Why are we seeking the change of address? Well, no one could have predicted a global pandemic for 2020. So with COVID-19, a new standard was established in the industry, that being curbside. What we're seeing is that 40% of a retailer's business is curbside. And so as we think about 250 Albany Street, which is our original location, to ensure that we would not essentially not be able to have customers coming into the space 18 months or 6 months into being operational because we couldn't accommodate curbside, we had to make the very difficult decision to seek a change of address. It really is in the best interest of our customers as well as employees that we can run an effective and efficient and most importantly safe curbside operation. Additionally, we do have interest in a delivery license as others. Being social equity applicants, we'd like to take advantage of the exclusivity period. For those that are not aware, the Cannabis Control Commission has allowed for an exclusivity period of up to 3 years for a delivery license for social equity and economic empowerment applicants. As we think about security and our safety, we have John Delaney, who's acting as our safety director, as I noted before. We also have Richard Soto, as well as Carlos Landros, acting as our associate safety directors. This is extremely important because between these three individuals, there's more than 100 years of experience. And that experience is with the Springfield Police Department, as well as securing other businesses within the city of Springfield. As we think about what that looks like for our retail establishment, every customer will go through 3 ID checks, and we've created a 44-point security plan. Now, this is extremely important because it assures the safety of those not only that will be coming into Six Bricks, but also the safety of those surrounding businesses and those that may be traveling past Six Bricks. We think that because of our presence at 1860 Main Street, we can increase the visibility and safety there due to our security protocols, the technology that we'll be investing heavily in, as well as the ways in which we plan to interact with that neighborhood. As we think more about the site, 1860 Main Street, it's more than 500 square feet away from residential property. It has adequate off-street parking. It's zoned industrial A with various use types, and it's away from schools, churches, parks, and community centers. We wanted to ensure that as we were seeking a change of address, we would not be disrupting residential life, as well that we could continue to honor the city of Springfield in a way that we as residents who live and work here felt that was important. I'll now turn it over to John Furman, who can talk in more detail about the site as he has done the traffic study as well as the engineering behind ensuring this is a safe and effective site for us.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, councilors. My name is John Furman. I am the Director of Land Development for VHB in Springfield. Our address is 1 Federal Street, Building 103 3N, right across from STCC. I'll have the next couple slides and my presentation will be brief. This slide shows the placement of the site in relation to the neighborhood committees that are around us. We are in the edge of the Metro Center. The building itself is 1860 Main Street, as Peyton stated, and it's at the Republican newspaper building. That building is located at the corner of Main Street and Liberty Street. And we've depicted the location of the overall building by that black square on this slide right here. Next one, Peyton, if you wouldn't mind. This is a enlargement of the site plan itself. For orientation, Liberty Street is off this page to the left. The broken line that you see around that parking area is what we've depicted as the limit of work. Within that limit of work, there are 43 parking spaces. And for the Six Bricks development, 25 of those will be assigned to us. And that's composed of 2 loading spaces, which you can see the 2 vans backed in. There are 5 spaces that are dedicated for curbside pickup, and with the balance of 18 spaces being left for customers. There are 43 within here. The balance of between the 25 for Six Bricks and the 43 is composed of the ADA spaces, which you see there dedicated by the symbols. Those are 5. 3 of the spaces along Main Street are being reserved for Republican visitors, and the remaining 10 by the dumpster area are shared spaces for use as 6 bricks overflow parking, as well as for Republican parking space. The access to the building is to the left of this graphic. You can see this kind of a shaded rectangle there. And you can enter that area, which is under the overhang of the current building, by 2 ways. Once you enter that overhang, there are queue lines. You either have a pre-order queue line or a walk-up queue line. Both of those lead to the separate entrance. Once you've conducted business, you exit where that hatched area is, and then there's one exit to the fenced area to the right. That area is secured by existing fencing, and we'll be breaking in new gates as needed. We are doing minor reworking of the parking area itself, basically for configuration and to make the flow a little bit easier for patrons. As part of the traffic study that we've conducted, all of the access to this site for this business will be off of Main Street. There is an existing exit and entrance off of Emory Street, but we are not intending to use that. From a traffic perspective, the lease space is approximately 8,000 square feet, and that's composed of the 2,500 square foot for retail, which is the maximum allowed under city ordinance, and the rest is either storage or office type use. It is displacing office use already, because that's what is currently in there. So our traffic analysis focused strictly on the 2,500 square foot of retail marijuana. For that type of use, using the International or the Institute of Transportation Engineers Transportation Journal, that type of use for 2,500 square feet generates approximately 632 new vehicle trips per day. That's a daily basis. And that is broken into 2 hours. One is the peak hour in the morning. That's approximately 55 vehicles added to Main Street in the peak hour. That's 27 entering and 28 exiting. So on average, it's about 1 vehicle every minute. The next peak hour we analyze is the peak hour on Saturday midday, which is the next highest one. During that peak, the same trip generation is anticipated, 632, but during the peak hour, it increases on Saturday to 45 entering and 46 exiting, for a total of 91 additional vehicles during the peak hour, or approximately a little less than 2 every minute. As working through the analysis with the Department of Public Works, we did not anticipate any improvements are required for the area to accommodate these vehicles. The curb cut is existing. And our analysis showed that we have multiple approaches coming into this exit from all areas accessed by 91. Peyton, was there another slide, the next one that I was?
No, I think you covered.
It was just those 2.
Just those 2.
Okay, then I'm done.
Wonderful. In the interest of time, we'll try to move this along for you all. So at a high level, we wanted to showcase the industry experience we're bringing to the table. I think John did a wonderful job outlining the fact that this is a location that really had a lot of unused leasable space. And we look at bringing something truly excited for it. And these are some of the folks in various industries that will be helping us to do that. As we think about community engagement, with more than 80% of our executive team living and working in the city of Springfield, these are just a multitude of the different organizations we've been able to engage with, lead, sit on boards of, and continue to call Springfield home and engage with it as best we can. As we think about community support, we have done outreach. Both my mother and father have been able to walk the neighborhood. As a reminder, that would be our chief procurement officer and executive secretary. That resulted in 4 letters of support, one coming from Tapestry Health, the other coming from the Springfield Housing Authority. We have a law office as well as the Association of Black Business and Professionals, all writing us a letter of support as we seek this change of address. Some of the community conversations we've had with folks that, due to policy or timing, were not able to write a letter of support are Wayfinders, Springfield Bid, the Women's Fund, Clean Slate, the Gray House, as well as the owner of the Kittredge building. So we've really tried to do a great job of reaching out to folks prior to our state mandated community outreach meeting, as well as engaging with folks to update them as we move along this process. Two of the organizations on these slides will be folks that we do our charitable donations to as well. As we think about our community commitments, within our original host community agreement, we committed to marijuana awareness and education programs. We fully intend to continue to do that. Job fairs in the neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods with a commitment to hiring 50% from the city of Springfield, as well as a commitment to working with local vendors, businesses, suppliers, and contractors. We look forward to supporting cultural assets like the Puerto Rican Parade, as well as the Hispanic American Library, supporting neighborhood organizations like New North Citizens Council, Lower Liberty Heights, and Women of the Vanguard. Should be noted that we reached out to all of these organizations and are continuing to have conversations with them as we seek this change of address. We're also supporting youth programs through a multitude of giving our time, talent, or treasures. And then we're supporting economic and social justice in the immediate area as we think about being the only social equity applicant that was approved in round one, and continuing to strive to be a model for others who seek to be in this industry, as well as establishing standards, because we do live here and we want this to be an industry that folks can happily engage with. Last but not least, I'll note that we are giving consideration to creating a neighborhood advisory council so that we can continue to have relationships with those in the community and engage them as best. Wanting to be mindful of time, I'll just quickly talk to the facility design. We want to acknowledge the checkered history of cannabis by being authentic. As I think about my own experience with cannabis, it was understanding that kids at Springfield Central High School were getting in trouble for having a dime bag and spray paint on them. And so the mural in the ceiling that had nodes of 413 and basketball and bricks are paying homage to that history, as well as having a refreshed look and feel, because we're not previously medical. We're coming at it purely from an adult use standpoint. We really wanted to engage our customers, as I said, acknowledging that checkered history. With that, I do thank you for your time and be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And I think we have reached the time for the petitioners. Is there any testimony, Madam Clerk, that you've received in opposition to the special permit?
I have not received any opposition to the special permit. I did receive an email for 2 speakers, but I don't have any note of what that's in regards to.
So
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Norman Rodan.
I have those speakers. I'm gonna get to you in just a second. Former school committee person, Norman Rodan, school committee member, sorry. And then we also have Carmen Santana looking to speak in opposition to the special permit. So school committee member or former school committee member, Norman Rodan, since you've spoken up already, please state your name and address for the record. It's good seeing you again. And the floor will be yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to give respect to one of my leaders in the community. So if you don't mind, I would love to have Carmen start the meeting. She has a letter from North End. She's actually a board member from the New North Citizen Council. So I prefer, if you don't mind, letting her start as a gentleman that we are.
Absolutely. Please state your name and address for the record.
Carmen Santana, 49 Hyde Avenue, Springfield, Mass.
Thank you.
I'm the vice president and chairperson for neighborhood and housing for the New North Citizen Council. They did approach us as an information, to bring us information about the 6 bricks. There were many issues that we wanted some information about, such as the letters close to the abusers. We only got a few answers from them. We never got all of them, such as safety protocols. What are their safeties towards our community, to our neighbors. Then we told them, once we have all this information, we need to proceed with another meeting on how you're going to abide by the rules that you're going to follow. Our main concern is the safety for our community. She's only proposing to have a police officer there for just the first 7 days. What happens after 7 days? What are the objectives? How are they going to be? How would I say it? I mean, the community itself do not want it. We were like blindsided by this. We had no acknowledge until we were approached to have this meeting, and we invited Six Bricks to come in with the information that the community needs. Then we did ask Ms. Schuberg to agree to provide us letters from their close abusers, such as Freedom Credit Union, Westfinder, Mass Hire, the United Postal Service, Northgate Plaza, and other entities surrounding the proposed premises, a copy of the host community agreement, and then to meet with the neighborhood committee of the board of directors. We, the next thing we learned was what we read on the paper, that they were coming up for a vote for a special permit. We, the community, feel like we're being rejected. We're just, right now, we are so overwhelmed with programs, and we don't know what to do with them. And it's very hard for our community to just sit here and listen. Yeah, I understand that it's for adult use and it's medical. I understand all that. But we have to also understand that we have a lot of young people out there. They're not just going to see it, okay, there is a marijuana dispensary. What's going to happen after they close? Are they going to have any safety protocols after closure? Is it going to be okay with their abusers next to them? We don't know anything about that. So we did ask Ms. Schubert to come back and give us information on that, which she only provided one of the many things that we did require. One of the biggest issue right now is the safety. It's the limbo. You're going to open and you're going to only have a couple of police officers there for 7 days. What's going to happen after? And that's the way the community feels about it. And Mr. Roldan is a resident, and I would like to hand the floor to him so he could express how he feels within this area right here.
Thank you, Ms. Santana. Mr. Roldan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Norm Roldan. I have property at 536 Cecil Street. A lifetime resident, born and raised in the city of Springfield for 55 years. I'm kind of old now, I feel. But I just want to say that, first of all, I want to thank our city councilman for doing great work for the city, caring for our city, and making sure that they speak for our people. And so thank you, everybody on the board, city council board. First of all, I want to wish Six Bricks, best wishes in their venture that they're doing with their, their company. I hear them. I see a lot of good things that they want to do. But I want to start by saying that the North End has come a long way. Our North End has been through a lot, ups and downs. Recently, we just finally got our methadone clinic closed out. By us doing that, we cleaned the North End 100%. There's no more gathering in our McDonald's, no more selling drugs, no more hanging around. It's if you look at the police records, it's just night and day. There's also been other programs that the North End has rejected. Fortunately, Sheriff Ash was trying to do a clinic in the North End near the school area as well, close to our school areas. And the North End, as well, spoke and said no. I think the North End has come a long way. We, as a community, we speak loud and we take notes of what's happening, and we also go out to our voting records and say, now we're going to speak because we know how it works. So with that said, my concern is that we have 4 schools, 2 brand new ones about to open. We have Lincoln, Chestnut, Brightwood, and Helena. All 4 schools are not too far from this location, and our concern is our kids. We're aware that as we had our problems with a mental clinic, was that these people would hang out after they get their drugs and work out, go somewhere else and do bad things. I'm not blaming anything on anything. I'm just saying it's just been proven, right? And we did get a review on how things are going to be addressed, but also we have, as the North End we've been asked by 2 other groups that wanted to move their cannabis or create a cannabis in the North End, and they were kind enough to listen to us. I took our recommendations, and they just agree with us and not to do it. So, and one of them is a local company right from the North End that wanted to do it, and we said no to them. So now we have somebody that's not from the neighborhood, that's in the city but not for our neighborhood, that wants to come in and open a business. I just feel that as they met to talk to the council, and the council voted, and we did send a letter saying no, that they rejected, that we don't agree with it. So I want to make sure that we put that in record, that we know there was a letter sent by New North saying no. So the city council voted against it. But with that said, there was a reason behind that. And Carmen sort of spoke about it a little bit. There was some requirements that they had to bring to us, and it was never brought to us in North End. Another thing that we also want to talk about is, what is their plan as we go forward for their security? What is their plan for the neighborhood? A lot of the names that I saw that they mentioned there, I spoke to those directors and they're not actually agreeing with it because they never sent a letter, and you're never gonna get a letter from them. So I want to make sure that this perception is that they spoke to them is different from them agreeing and writing a letter. We haven't seen that. So not only us, but also our partners, Northgate Plaza, they have a lot of businesses there. I spoke to them before I came to this meeting. They also were surprised to know to hear this. So now we have not just us, but we have our local businesses that are neighbors to us saying that they're not happy with this. So it's not just one thing, it's a bunch of things. I'm not saying, and I won't say, that they haven't done their diligence. I see their plan. They've done great work. I applaud them. They've done some good work. It's just that because of the change of COVID, I don't think that was the reasoning for them to go the location while doing their study in the neighborhood, seeing what was there and what was happening. I feel concerned by our elderly. That's one thing that I spoke to them about this week. And they also telling me that they're not aware, especially, Lower Liberty. We have 2 buildings there for elderly. They're not happy with that. We have, Chestnut Tower. They're not happy with it. We have, Linden Towers. They're not happy with it. And then we have what they call Lower Liberty elderly buildings there. None of those are real happy with it. And also, I haven't seen a letter from Lower Liberty Council. That's also our neighbor council. And I haven't seen that they approached them and spoke to them. I need to make sure that we're on the same page. And once we're on the same page, if the vote is yes, we need to come to the table and find out what their safety rules are, what their sponsorships are. Are they going to sit on the table for neighbor councils to make sure that every person on the council is aware of what's happening with their protocols, as well as a letter of commitment to the mayor saying that if they sell their business, they're going to come to the city council and the mayor's office and let them know before they make any transaction or any changes. I don't want this to be like our methadone clinic that was in the North End. We lived with it for almost 10 years, and it was a big, big mess. I prefer that we do it right if it gets done. But we're against it in North End. We're against it. I just want to make sure that our city councilmen know how we feel about this. Like we feel our new schools being built. You know, we all were part of that. When we talked about, you know, our air quality, those city councilmen that were out there speaking for us for air quality for our kids. Now I want them to speak out for our kids, our elderly, and our, you know, obviously our population in North End. I want those same people to speak out for us and be a word to say, no, this is wrong. This is not right. And let's work together and find them a spot that's going to be feasible for them. I'm not saying not to find them a spot. I think they have a good layout. I think they study it. They've done it right. I applaud them for the work they've done. I just think they need to go to a spot that's going to be more fluid for them and not attack a North End area that's come from a bad spot and it's in a good spot now. So with that said, thank you very much, Mr. President. I wish you guys luck in your decision tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Rodon, and I'll be clear, just so that you know, there also will be an opportunity to rebut whatever has been said at our next meeting, which will take place on December 7th at 6:30, and that is when the final vote will take place. So what we will do now is we will open the floor for counselors to ask questions of either those speaking in favor of the permit or those speaking against the permit. So if there are any questions from the council, then we can entertain those now, after which we will have a motion to continue this item. Are there any questions from the council for either the proponents or the opponents? Seeing, oh, okay. Councilor Ramos, followed by Councilor Williams.
President, I do have a question. I'm not sure who this question is directed to. I guess whoever can answer. Regarding the host community agreement, where is that process? Is there a host community agreement in place? If not, then why not?
I can answer that. Thank you so much for the question. We do currently have a host community agreement in place with our previous address, 250 Albany Street, listed. A lot of the content of that agreement will still remain true. The only amendment we're asking for is of the address. We are currently seeking the amendment with the mayor's office, and we're having regular conversations about that.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is just two-part, one in relation to parking and the other to one of the comments that Mrs. Schubrick had mentioned before. So one of the questions I have is, I know some nonprofits were listed as being abutters to the immediate area that this is being proposed to exist at. And my question around that is in regards to, I know Peyton, you had mentioned, like, you know, community response and community donations and all of that. And I know, for example, Wayfinders, because I certainly used to work there, you know, they receive federal dollars. So therefore that prohibits them, I believe, from accepting donations from such an entity. So I was just wondering, in regards to, you know, kind of how you're looking out for the community, can you maybe just speak to that a little further? As well as just the parking situation. I was just wondering at length, like, are you going to be using all of the spaces that the current Republican offers, or a subset of that? And what does that situation look like in regards to parking?
Those are two great questions. So to address your first question, understanding that Wayfinders does receive federal dollars, the way in which we anticipate working with that entity is essentially to ensure that we don't obstruct any of the business that they regularly receive. I was able to meet with the CEO and president of that organization. We talked at great lengths about having an individual from the Six Brick security team stationed there in order to ensure nobody's parking in their parking lot or standing out in front of their business. So as we think about engaging with them, it's not only charitable donations, but it's also thinking about ways in which we can be a good neighbor to ensure that we're not obstructing any business that they may have received. Understanding that cannabis is federally illegal, certain organizations are not in a position to write a letter of support, which is why you saw Wayfinders listed as someone we had a conversation with, but not someone who can write a letter either supporting us or opposing us.
Right.
So that was your first question. If you don't mind repeating your second question, just to make sure I can address it fully.
Yeah, sure. Peyton, I was just asking in regards to, so I know, of course, with the influx of these type of dispensaries that coming to town, I do look to Northampton, for example, where I see that they typically, especially upon opening, have a robust kind of, folks flowing in and out of, their facility. So I was just wondering in regards to the parking and the spaces being used, yes, it's great that they have that much parking because I think it's going to be necessary. So do you have access to every spot on that lot?
Yeah. So to start, we'll have access to 25 to 50 parking spots. And then if we need more spaces, we do have an option to have that discussion with our landlords. The goal in doing that was to make sure we had adequate off-street parking, as well understanding the first 7 days that we're in business, we will have a police presence, and we will look to renew that depending on traffic patterns, understanding that if we see an influx of business, we may need it additional days. But to address your question, we'll have 25 to 50 parking spots to start, with more if needed based on business.
I appreciate the context. Thank you, Peyton.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm sorry, I missed you,
I
Councilor.
just wanted to say thank you. No, I was before Councilor Davila. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say thank you to Peyton and the team for presenting, and I also wanted to say thank you to Mr. Roland and Ms. Santana for their comments as well. I just wanted to bring some clarity to the process as I was on the Marijuana Internal Review Committee for the city, that while a community meeting was supposed to be hosted, the decision to grant a permit is not based on the recommendation or non-recommendation of a neighborhood council. That's part of the application process. That is not part of the application process. They only have to host a community meeting. They don't require a neighborhood council letter. And the reason that we did that is because we didn't want neighborhood councils to have that much authority over the process, as far as like maybe they support one organization over another organization. We didn't want them to have that much authority to be that objective, or let me see, subjective, to have that much authority to choose which organization they would want to support and which organization they didn't. We wanted to make sure that it was going to be a fair process. And so I just wanted to let the council know that that was part of the internal review committee's decision. We made it together. And so I just wanted to put that out there, as I know that the New North Neighborhood Council did ask for a lot of information from Ms. Shubrick, but that is not the determining factor of the application process. So I just wanted to make sure that you all know that that is not part of it. And then I just wanted to ask Peyton or someone on her team about security, since that was mentioned so many times. Will you tell us a little bit about the security procedures after the 7 days that you have hired police? And also, have you talked to the C3 Metro police unit to see what type of support they can offer?
Thank you so much, Councilor Whitfield, for the question. John Delaney is also on the call with me today as our safety director. Prior to allowing him to talk to the safety plan, I think it's important to note that we will be hiring a diverse staff of safety professionals to start, outside of just the 3 individuals you saw listed on that slide. The goal there is to make sure that we have adequate security outside, walking the parking lot, making sure there's no consumption on site, as well as safety within the actual storefront, to ensure that no one under the age of 21 is permitted in, nor can they gain access to the space. Additionally, to ensure that as we think about our safety protocols, it allows us to distribute to paying customers without having to worry about issues of theft or violations of our employees, so on and so forth. John, if you can hear us, if you'd like to describe in a little bit more detail the 44-point security plan you all have been able to come up with in order to shed light on some of the security protocols.
Hi, yes, I'd be honored to, Peyton. Can everybody hear me?
Yes. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, John Delaney. I'm a resident of Springfield for the last 62 years. I live on Sumner Avenue in Springfield right now.
Thank you.
Everybody listening from the city council and the members of the the North End city council, the neighborhood council, you know me. And it should be clarified that my relationship with Peyton Schubrick goes back when she was 10 years old. I'm not somebody that just happenstance to come across this and be part of this future employment in Springfield. I have known her. I've coached her in soccer since she was 10 years old until she was going to college, and I'm friends with her parents. So, you know, when you look at the name 6 Bricks, I'm the 7th brick. So I really am honored that she asked me to be her safety director. And behind my experiences, I've worked 37 years in the Springfield Police Department, and most of that time was in the city's North End. I'm well known throughout there, and I've made the North End a safer place because of my due diligence and my hard work. People that have known me in the city of Springfield know me as the public information officer for the city of Springfield under Commissioner Fitchett for over a decade. And since I've retired, I have been involved in boards of trustees, and I've also have raised a lot of money through the Ride to Remember. So whatever I do, I go in it with all my heart. So this area that we're talking about in the city of Springfield, being at Main and Liberty, I'm very familiar with the building. I've been in the newspaper building hundreds of times because of my job as a public information officer. I'm very familiar with the officers that work in the downtown area and the downtown sector area, and been in communication with them as a result of our changing of the address from Albany Street to where we are going right now. The first thing that I did is Richard Soto, who was a retired detective, narcotics detective from the city of Springfield, an awesome individual. He lives in the North End, has lived there his whole life with his family. He's going to be the deputy director of safety. And both him and myself will be on premises all the time that building is open. A matter of fact, we'll be there an hour before and an hour after the building opens. A director of security will be on site to make sure that that place is run professionally. I have a plan, and Peyton mentioned the 44 point plan in regards to safety. One of us is the safety people that I'm hiring are retired police officers and law enforcement personnel and corrections officers from Springfield and the Western Mass area. And I'm hiring these people not because of their experience in law enforcement, but because of their personalities. And these are great people. They're retired from the police department, and they have a keen eye, and they're going to be there greeting people, watching the area. Another important aspect that you should know about is that we have drawn the vast knowledge of surveillance from Valley Communication. Valley Communication is a local distributor of safety technology. And the technology that we're going to have there, this area that we're talking about is going to be under complete control of cameras and surveillance equipment, second to none. And myself and Richard Soto will always have it with us, so where we'll be able to view it. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a problem, we'll know about it right away. We both live in the city of Springfield. We'll both be on site within 10 minutes. The area itself, what we're talking about, Main and Liberty, will be under constant surveillance of any type of activity. It was mentioned before from the North End Neighborhood Council that they're worried about kids. There's going to be no kids allowed in and around the property. Whether they're coming in with customers or hanging around, they're not going to be allowed. I will have constant communication with the Springfield Police Department. I worked there for 37 years. I have a good rapport with people, people from the neighborhood. I'm down there a lot. It's my hometown. It's a place that I patrolled and I kept people safe. So if people think that that place will not be a place that's secure, it will be. I give you my promise, I give you my word that that area of Springfield will be one of the safest areas within a quarter-mile place where people can walk by and feel safe. Why? Because there's going to be people in parking lots, in front of the building, on cameras, all the time while this place is open. People are not allowed to be hanging around. We won't allow it. And if people refuse to leave, then we will call the police. There's this notion that a police officer will be on site for 7 days or 10 days when we open. That's very fluid. It probably will go longer. If we have a lot of business and all those parking lots, spaces are filled and we need help with traffic and stuff, you can bet that we're gonna have a police officer on site that will pay them, and they'll be there not only to help us watch with security, but to help with traffic. And I'm hoping that happens, and I hope business comes from downtown. It's within walking area of the bus terminal, the train station. It's in a superb place because there's really not that many houses around there. There's not many people living around there. I'm very cognizant of the fact that of kids walking to and from school. We'll be out there. We're not going to be wearing police type uniforms, but we'll be out there with a keen eye. So my door's always open. My phone number's out there. If anybody from the North End Citizens Council wants to talk to me about security, that's my livelihood. I've done it for 37 years, and I've got my heart into it. I hope that answers everybody's questions.
Thank you, Sergeant Delaney. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Shrubik, my compliments on an excellent presentation. I was impressed with your presentation, and thank you to the representative of the North Citizen Council and all others for taking the time to and attend this important meeting. As we all know, this is fairly new to all of us. I want to make sure that we get it right. Mr. President, I do have several questions. I guess my first question is for planning. I don't see Phil on the call. Is he on the call, Mr. President, Phil?
He should be.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good afternoon, Phil. How are you?
Good.
Can you refresh my memory, because it was the schools was brought up, that there's 4 schools. What's in the ordinance, what's the buffer zone?
Under the zoning ordinance, the buffer is 500 feet. So there is no school within 500 feet of this site.
Okay, just
I think
to
the
make
schools
sure.
that were mentioned were Lincoln and but there is no school, including charter schools, within 500 feet of this site.
Right, so technically that wouldn't be an impediment for 6 bricks. Okay,
Nope.
Just bringing it up because it was brought up. I want to make sure that I got my facts straight. Ms. Shrubik, I'm glad to hear that pretty much in essence what Sergeant Delaney was saying is that you're going to have your own internal security, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And most of them are going to be retired police officers?
Correct.
Oh, correct. Okay. Now, Ms. Shrubik, can you walk me, I don't know if Ms. Shrubik, I don't know if we can have that map that they put up before with the actual location and State Street. And can you walk me through the concept? I believe you said at the beginning of the presentation that it's going to be mainly a curbside pickup establishment, correct?
So we'll have both in-store experience and a curbside The reason I noted the curbside is because of the space and time we're living in. With COVID-19, what we're seeing from current shops that are open is 40% of their revenue is coming from curbside. So not having that could be extremely problematic as we think about opening doors and being able to sustain ourselves and having longevity in this industry. If our competitors can offer curbside and we can't, that could be extremely problematic for us. The goal of my family and I, as well as my partner, is to ensure that we not only open doors, but we're successful and have longevity in our community so that we can continue to meet the commitments of our host community agreement.
Right. Now, Ms. Schubeck, I believe you said you're going to have between 25 and 50 parking spots, correct?
Correct.
Right. Now, can you walk me through the traffic pattern? How would that look like, say, for example, if I just want to go do a curbside pickup? Can you walk me what that process will look like?
Okay. If you're able to see my mouse, basically you'd be entering from Main Street here, and then we have designated curbside parking spots here. And the reason that they're close to the building is because we do have a door here in which our employees can quickly and conveniently come out and service you. The curbside will work through two different models, one via phone, the other via online order. And so with that, customers will then be issued a pickup time, so there won't be an influx of folks all at the same time, understanding that we only have so many curbside pickups. Folks will have 30 minutes, a window of time to come pick up their order. If they don't, the order will be released. Due to the rules and regulations, no one can prepay for the order. Payment will only be able to take place on site. But to answer your original question, you'd be coming through here to Main Street. The parking is here on the left-hand side for curbside, allowing you a quick and convenient method. The additional parking spots will be noted as 6 bricks parking, and then will allow you to quickly and efficiently retain a space under the loggia standing in our walk-in queue to then enter the space. We'll have 2 separate entrances and exits, so that there won't be cross-pollination of traffic. Those going in will have one way in, and those going out will have one way out.
So my way out I will be exiting back onto Main Street?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And I do believe the traffic study that the gentleman before said that we're going to have 55 cars, extra cars during the peak hours?
Correct. And I believe John Furman is still on the call if you have additional questions relative to the traffic pattern.
Very well. So just the traffic pattern is what I'm focusing now in terms of, so I'm going through Main Street, I pick up my order, I go back out to Main Street. Now, once I place my order, do I go to the counter or they come out to me?
For curbside, we will come out to you.
Curbside.
We will be asking your make and model of your vehicle so that we can come out and service you. Curbside will mean that you do not enter the store at all.
Right. So just in terms of security, Ms. Schubeck, I'm thinking, what would that look like for that? You guess it's a cash transaction that's going to occur. What kind of security, if you're able to say what that security will look like at that specific time?
Yeah, so essentially what will occur to start is if you pull into a curbside parking spot, a bud tender will come out, validate your make and model, and ask for your first initial ID check. They will validate you are who has actually placed the order and that your ID is in fact a valid ID issued by the state. Right. Once that then occurs, they will then seek payment and come in and ensure that payment is received in full for the order before then bringing it out. These security protocols ensure that we can check the ID and make sure that it is in fact accurate, and 2, that we can ensure that payment is received prior to issuing the actual product itself, to make sure that there's no issues, whether it be cash exchange or other methods of payment, as we are seeing folks now begin to take debit card transactions.
Right, but I'm saying the actual transaction of cash, would that happen from me in the car to the Correct. Clerk, or right?
Yeah, so while you're in your vehicle, you will then hand them your
the cash.
Yeah, and then they will come inside, ring you out so that they can receive your receipt, because you need to have a receipt with every transaction with your product. It is a rule of the Cannabis Control Commission to ensure we have seed to sale tracking taking place.
Right. And so thinking in terms of security, there will be people, once the curbside is occurring, there will be a security people in place outside.
Yes, this is John Delaney. There will always,
persons.
always, 100% of the time, a security personnel, security or safety officer within feet of the transactions that are taking place.
Okay, that's
While the
what I was
business is open, there will always,
Okay.
always 100% of the time be a security officer in that parking lot.
Excellent, excellent. Very well. And lastly, I do have, as you were talking, Ms. Rubik, I thought to myself, this might be an opportunity, thinking outside of the box, to help bring back that area furthermore. Have you considered how we can integrate or try to give a boost to the food truck industry, which is so close by? We have a food truck district, which Councilor Williams created, I believe it was last year. Has there been given any thought how that will fit into the area as well, trying in effort to have a multiplying effect on the economy?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm starting to think you might be in some of our team meetings. We have some thought to how we can have food trucks as well as engage with other local businesses such as Hot Oven Cookies, Upscale Socks. Part of the goal for us is to help other small businesses as we think about not only our grand opening, but our business as we think month over month ways to engage folks within the community, as well as acknowledging cultural months and things of that nature. So yes, we have.
Very well. Mr. President, do I have time for a quick question to the opponents, if I may?
Let's circle back around to you, Councilor Davila, and let's let Councilor Letterman, Councilor Walsh, and Councilor Edwards talk. And I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Rubik.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilor. Councilor Letterman, followed by Councilor Walsh.
Thanks, Mr. President. I was going to ask too about some of the security protocols, although I think you and your team have pretty well covered that, Ms. Shubrick. What do you anticipate to be your operating hours?
Yeah, so at this point, we're looking at 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday with an adjusted time of 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday.
And so that's what you're going to start out with. Do you anticipate, I mean, obviously you may change them as time goes on, but do you anticipate those being more like your introductory hours and then you'll go to something else? Or do you think that'll pretty much be what you'll be consistently throughout your time in business?
I believe that will consistently be our business hours with over 54 retailers now open across the state of Massachusetts. We're not seeing the grand openings that once occurred in Northampton, and it's pretty much in line with what customers would expect from this type of establishment.
Okay, and then just so I'm clear on the actual layout, so you're going to enter from the parking lot. That'll be the only entrance?
No, so you'll actually enter from underneath the loggia, which is that overhanging structure where the door currently is for the Republican. It'll actually be, if facing the building, on the right-hand side. We'll be cutting 2 doors into that building in order to create the separate entrance and exit I reference. Those doors currently do not exist on that building.
So you'll only be in the parking lot either to park or to do curbside pickup?
Correct.
Then you'll exit the parking lot, you'll go in the entrance door, conduct your transaction, leave and go back into the parking lot?
Correct.
Okay, now currently that parking lot is secured by a fence. Will that fence stay?
Portions of it. We will be restructuring it in order to better carve out our initial parking spots, as well to allow for a flow of traffic with walking paths. So folks aren't driving where individuals will be trying to walk to enter into the space.
Okay, and have you considered what type of landscaping and lighting will be there, if any, change to what's there now?
Yeah, we'll see an increase in lighting based on the need to have surveillance cameras with good lighting. As well, we will be moving some of the greenery around to ensure that there's adequate runoff as we understand storm drainage and different things of that nature. But things will need to be maneuvered in order to accommodate our needs and have adequate off-street parking.
Yeah, and I ask about that, although I'm sure we all want it to look pretty too. I think there's a lot that can be done in a space like that that's so open to sort of contain it a little bit using landscaping. And so I'd be curious to see at some point a markup of that, just so that folks who may want to be able to engage in that area and not take part in that business are able to comfortably go through. And I know a lot of applicants in different special permits have utilized that well. So I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that. But as always, thank you for a great presentation. Very well prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman, Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's rather unfortunate that we have a difference with community leaders on this particular issue, but I do feel that Councilor Whitfield, thank you so much for your clarification of the process. I know you served on that committee and did the guidelines for what was required. I'm not quite sure because I think I have a COVID brain right now. Did you have your community host meeting, Peyton?
Yes, great question. We had our community outreach meeting on September 23rd. My partner, Elena Jimenez, was able to invite both the New North Citizens Council as well as Lower Liberty Heights to that meeting prior to it taking place.
And were a lot of these issues that were brought up tonight, which are valid concerns by the New North Council, well represented by the two members tonight, did those issues come up? Were they addressed?
So we gave a full presentation similar to the one you saw this evening and addressed concerns as they came up. There was only a total of 3 questions asked and no opposition on the community outreach meeting.
Okay. Well, I think, and I think a lot of my colleagues would agree with me when this whole issue came up, when it became legal and when the opportunity for businesses became apparent, that they would almost be describing your business in the recommendations that they put forward. Female owned, minority owned, family, community. I mean, you hit all the boxes, I think, of what people were looking for when they wanted to create this opportunity for medical marijuana. And I would be hard pressed not to support a female-owned, created, run family business. I hope that the issues from the New North Council, which I think have been addressed tonight, I know you'll work with them. I know you'll be a crusader, but I'd be very careful with those cookies. I'm not sure what kind of cookies you're all talking about. So
careful with the cookies.
Yeah, be careful with the cookies. So hopefully there'll be an opportunity before we take the final vote where all parties will be in agreement, because I want to say that every time you make a presentation, it's absolutely the best. It's the best presentation. And I hope these differences can be ironed out so there's total agreement and that you will be successful.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Edwards, the floor is yours. And thank you.
Actually, thank you, Mr. President. My question was going to be to Peyton about meeting with the New North Citizen Council. I think Councilor Walsh pretty much hit it on and asked the same question. Unless Ms. Peyton Schuberg would like to go a little further about the interaction or the meeting that she had with them, or perhaps she could speak on whether or not she met with the Franklin Neighborhood Council. I believe that was mentioned earlier as well, if she feels like she can offer any more. But I just would like to know what that interaction or that meeting looked like.
Yeah, thank you, City Councilor Edwards. So to outline time frame, my partner Elena Jimenez reached out to the New North Citizens Council regarding our community outreach meeting, which is mandated by the state. We then, after understanding there were some concerns, presented to them on November 10th, giving a similar presentation to the one you all received this evening. They then requested additional documentation from us, wanting to see our host community agreement as well as letters of support, as well as offered the opportunity to once again present to a larger body. We provided them with the host community agreement via email on November 16th and the letters of support on November 19th. I have email exchanges with their executive assistant, who I believe is Trayvon Rivera, showcasing that we did in fact provide them with the documentation. The last communication that I received was an email that outlined that he would be in touch with next steps regarding any further interactions. Additionally, once again, my partner has been engaging with the Lower Liberty Heights Council. There has been no opposition that we're aware of at this time from that group. They have asked that we continue to engage with them in conversation, and of course we will do so. The goal for us is really to engage the community in this emerging industry. It's here and it's going to be a billion-dollar industry. How do we get representation from our community in this industry and continue to build as there will be more licenses available and more businesses, which is truly an opportunity for us all to have a slice of the pie, if you will.
Thank you, Ms. Shubrick. Thank you, Councilor Edwards. We have Councilor Allen, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thanks, Mr. President. First question I had the same question as Catering about the community meeting. I got the answer on when it was held. Could you say where it was held? Was it held on location where you're planning to open, where you'd like to open, or?
It was held via Zoom per COVID-19 concerns and restrictions. We did publish that in the paper and we advertised it for 14 days, which is an increase from the original 7 days for a state mandated community outreach meeting.
So at the time there were, thank you, there were only 3 people who attended. Was that advertised at the time to the New North Citizens Council as well?
Yeah, just to clarify, only 3 questions were asked on the call.
Sorry.
No worries. We had roughly 23 attendees. We have a full list of those that did in fact attend the meeting that evening, if that's helpful to provide. And the questions were really centered around our engagement in the industry and what that would look like moving forward. To answer your other question, as I'd mentioned before, my partner Elena Jimenez had reached out to the New North Citizens Council as well as the Lower Liberty Heights Council, inviting them to the meeting.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Thank you. I just noticed the time difference. September 23rd was 2 months ago today, and there was a lot of activity. It sounds like a week or 2 weeks ago or something. So I just wanted to make sure that the people who are speaking now against it had an opportunity to attend that meeting then, because there was a span of 6 or 7 weeks in between there. Do you have an option? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, on behalf of New North, I'd like to say something. I mean, I just, if it might be indulged.
If Councilor Allen, do you mind if Mr. Roldan answers that question in response to your question, sir?
I don't mind as long as I get the chance to ask a couple more questions. That's fine.
Absolutely. And Mr. Roldan, there also will be an opportunity at our next meeting if folks do not ask you the questions that will help allow you to respond to what might being asked of, to what is being asked of Ms. Shubrick, then you will have an opportunity for a rebuttal period at our next regular meeting. And you and anyone else who might be in opposition to the special permit. So Councilor Allen, sounds like Mr. Roldan, the floor is yours to respond.
Right. So, yeah. So what I want to, sorry. So what I want to say is, though I agree with, it was a great presentation that they presented. There was more than 3 questions, and I want to correct that. But besides the question, I think what they brought to her and explained to her is that our concern is not where they're at. Our concern is what the population is doing when they get out of the building and how far they go down. That's the same thing that was happening with our methadone clinic, and that's the concern, that they go down our way. But yeah, it was a well prepared. She did a good job, and we agree with what she done. But it wasn't that the North End agreed with anything that she actually said. They asked her that they'll get back to her, and that was the main thing. So we did not get back to her yet. We never got a chance to. So I just want to make sure we know that, and that's noted, that we never get a chance to get back to her, to have a conversation, to talk about maybe if it's going to happen, how can we work together as a team? So I would love to have a conversation with Six Bricks and whatever happens here, so we can work as a community to make sure everything is safe. So make sure that I say that, so we could at least quote that as a statement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodon. Councilor Allen, the floor is still yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, could you go over again the list of supporters who have written letters on behalf of you, or could you send us the presentation? Maybe that could.
I'd be more than happy to send the presentation, but just to quickly review, we have 4 letters of support. The letters of support don't include the conversations we've had, but that's with Tapestry Health, who wrote a letter of support. I did send all those earlier in the day to Attorney Davis, so my apologies for sending those late. We also received a letter from the Association of Black Business and Professionals. We received a letter from the Springfield Housing Authority, as well as a privately held law firm. And so all of those letters can be sent to you, as well as the presentation.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you. Okay, I think this may be my last question, looking over my notes. Do you still have an option of still using, I understand that curbside is apparently problematic at Albany Street in your mind, but do you still have an option of using Albany Street if this were not to pass?
So at this point, we are moving forward with the understanding that if we were not to secure a special permit here, we would not move forward with 250 Albany Street. Okay. We feel strongly that curbside is here to stay in the industry, and it would be prohibitive to our business model not to have it, or to do it and not have it be safe, effective, or efficient.
And do you feel that, and just a follow up to that, is it because Albany Street is narrow, or is it because it's not set up for it, or?
It's a combination of different factors. I think based on the street that it's on, it does present challenges for patrons that would try to enter and exit the property. Additionally, parking does become an issue as we think about being able to appropriately designate curbside versus in-store customers, and last but not least, understanding the slight incline of that, ensuring that we could safely and effectively operate all aspects of the business becomes problematic.
Okay, great. Thank you for your answer. I'm all set, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilor Walsh. You're welcome for the information, and if any of the councilors have any questions about the process and the internal review committee and what we put together to approve these applicants, please feel free to ask. I just wanted to also mention that with the layout of the building, the windows have to be no see-through windows, so no one will be able to look in and know that it's a marijuana location. Also, the sign cannot have any type of like cannabis information on the signs, and this is part of the application review process. So if you look at it, it'll just look like Six Bricks, and maybe for the younger generation, they may not even know what Six Bricks is. And I do understand that the population could travel, but they can travel now. People buy marijuana illegally right now, and they go wherever they're gonna go to enjoy it. And so, you know, that's just part of life. And I just feel the same way as Councilor Walsh. This applicant is minority, it's women owned, it's local residents, it's family owned, it's social equity at its best. And I hear what the community is saying also, and I understand the concerns, but I'm hoping, like Mr. Roland said, that the two entities can work together and come up with a viable solution that will be a win-win for everyone and for the community. Whether you live in North End, Mason Square, East Forest Park, you're still a Springfield resident. And it's not a division of neighborhoods, or it shouldn't be. It should be one city. And I'm hoping that we could get to that point and, you know, just work as one city. And that's just my final comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to circle back with a question to Mr. Roldan, if I may. Mr. Roldan, you had mentioned as part of the concerns about the schools, according to Phil, the buffer zone is 500 feet, and the Shrubbeck is going to have 5,000 feet buffer zone. I was wondering if you could elaborate for us a little bit more about your safety concerns that the New York City Council, New York Citizen Council has with this proposal, as it relates to the schools.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Davila.
Mr. Roldan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so our concern is it's not the 500 feet or 5,000 feet. Our concern is that as we learn from the past from the, methadone clinic, is that it wasn't that they were not in that area and that's 1,000 feet from any school. Is that when they left there, they ended up in areas that were not good areas in the North End. Part of that was in school areas, which if you look at your records, there was a lot of problems back then because of what was happening there. And then along with that, it was the population of people that were going there that was going there for the bad stuff, right? They were going for one thing, but they were doing other stuff that wasn't part of that. So it's the traffic of people going there that was happening in the area. So our concern was people going there doing the wrong thing. You can't control that. And I agree with my fellow councilor city councilor that mentioned that you can't control people. But if that's the case and the location they were in could have been expanded and it would have been okay, right? So you're right. I'm agreeing with that, like other councilors as well. Our problem was the location and how close to 4 schools, brand new schools in the area that are too far from this area that they could travel down. If you have that much security in that area to sell the product, obviously they're not going to do anything there because there's a lot of cops there. Our concern is having a good detail away in the North End area. If that's going to happen, that we have a cop assigned to the school area in school hours at least, and in the North End for the elderlies. I mean, that would be
well, but that's a mile away. That's a mile away from the proposed location. I'm just trying to understand get a good grip on your concern, but that's a mile away.
That's how far they go to sell, and it was the closest areas in North End to sell. And we know if you're gonna do anything wrong, because past experience of what we know in the North End ends up in the North End. And now that the North End is cleaned up, we're looking to keep it clean. And I'm not against 6 bricks. I think they organized it right. I give them credit, and I love that minority women businesses people doing it, because I applaud that. I'm one of the people that champion that. I agree with your fellow councilors that we need to give our own people a chance. I just think the location be questionable, but once I said the schools, I want to make sure we understand that. But along with that, we're more than open and willing to work with 6 bricks. We just want to make sure that we're upfront with everything that happens and everybody's truthful, and regardless of what happened in the past, we need to come to the table. And it doesn't look like our community wants it. I have to speak up for them, no matter how it looks like, but we have to talk. We have to come to the table. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weldon. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to follow up briefly as we head towards what looks like the end of this portion of the hearing on the fact that this won't be back before us for a couple of weeks until our next meeting for a vote. And in that time, I very much hope that there will be continued conversations, not just with the New North Citizens Council, but also with the other neighborhood associations in that area. This sits in a sort of precarious area that's on the border of really 3 different neighborhood associations that are active. But I have to say that during the first round of permitting, 6 Bricks and Ms. Shubrick specifically were probably the most engaged applicant with a neighborhood association, with the neighborhood association that was in their previous location, the McKnight Neighborhood Council, which happens to be the neighborhood where I now live and where I grew up. And, you know, I'd say that I want to see the same relationship hopefully form regardless of, you know, if this goes forward, because I think that that was a very important aspect and spoke to, I think, the commitment that this company has shown. So I do hope that you'll be able to continue those conversations between both entities before we come to a final vote, regardless of where you both fall in that, because I think that that's, you know, extraordinarily important for if there is a future here, what that will look like. So I do hope that that conversation can continue, and perhaps we can have some more input at the next round of meetings, because I was very impressed with the community engagement that took place in the first round. I can tell you that, you know, I think that the neighborhood here is going to miss 6 Bricks, right? And so I hope that, and they understand, you know, the change, but I think that I would love to see that same relationship form between neighborhood associations. As Councilor Whitfield pointed out, of course, you know, we can't require approval one way or another. As a matter of fact, we can't require the involvement of neighborhood associations in any special permit proceeding because of the way that special permit hearings are guaranteed in state law for access. One of the first things I wanted to do when I was elected was to actually require people to visit neighborhood associations, but we weren't able to do that because you are guaranteed a hearing before the city council. But what we've always asked is for folks to voluntarily communicate. And so I'm hopeful that we can see those conversations continue in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I know that this conversation has been a little bit long-winded. I just wanted to for the record that we did have an economic development subcommittee meeting, and this conversation did arise at our subcommittee meeting last week, specifically on you know, obviously how people have been receiving communications, which has been via press release. I think that has been part of the problem and part of the miscommunication that precedes us at this moment. I believe that in the beginning, when the press release was released that 6 Bricks was moving down to the Republican or seeking a special permit, obviously we understand the legalities because we were one of the ones that put together the zoning ordinance and created this process, and also the process that Councilor Whitfield served on was a process that was created by the mayor. And we understand that that process was solely just to seek out host community agreements versus the process that we created to make sure that this is an area where that is zoned appropriately for it. So I think we have to understand during this process of the special hearings, and also people that are at home on the education, on the fact that the process that we are listening to now is to make sure that it is zoned appropriately. And we understand that the location is zoned appropriately for that. And we are traveling down a slippery slope, essentially, when it comes to the neighborhood board. And I stated this at our subcommittee that you know, the reasons why I was alleged to say no to a prior host community agreement was judged against me. And then I know that the confusion in what was created through the press release that was brought forth by Mayor Sarno and his team was saying that they were waiting for recommendations through the neighborhood board. And we also talked about throughout the issues of the lines of what's downtown, what's North End, what's Liberty Heights. And I specified and said that when things in my tenure here at the city council that had to do with this specific kind of no man's land, which I call it, right? Because it's really a commercial area. There is no residential unless you, you know, go under the bridge to go south, to go into downtown, or when you go north to go into the North End neighborhood. Behind it, we have the highway, and in front of it, you have the post office. I think that, you know, what has traditionally happened in my recollection, and maybe Phil can speak to a little bit of that, is that when it came to the Kittredge building, when we did the zoning ordinance over in 2016, when we rezoned it, because we were supposed to get this fabulous, you know, hotel and residential towers, which obviously didn't happen. And then now we did a historical evaluation and made it a historic district right behind it. Really kind of confused, I guess, maybe a lot of us, because those went to the New North Citizens Board. It didn't go to Liberty Heights. It didn't go to Aqua. Those specific notifications went to the New North Citizens Council Board. So, you know, realistic, I understand that there was some arguments that felt that, you know, the location was not in the New North Citizens Council jurisdiction versus the other neighborhood boards. But, you know, traditionally, maybe it's because of lack of activity in that district, that the neighborhood board has been given, you know, that notification specific to things that go on in that specific part of Ward 1. I've always been a strong proponent on making sure that equitable individuals or equitable applicants get their fair share and fair support. But I think sometimes in the communications, specifically on, obviously, I would think that, you know, the applicant has exhausted or maybe has been going through some things that's why there's a reason why they have to move, which is none. I don't know what they are, and I don't know what it is. If they feel this is a better business plan, then that's fantastic as well. I have no ills before that. But you know, myself as a ward counselor, I believe that, you know, communication is key. I think that communication, and I've learned that from, you know, sitting here on this council, specifically during special permit hearings, to really evaluate and understand, and just specifically just to create a concern that the Springfield Housing Authority letter, I think Ms. Schubrick had stated that the letter of support that she couldn't get from Wayfinders, because obviously they're a federal funded entity, which Springfield Housing Authority, I think, receives federal dollars as well, which I don't know if that leadership over there has to kind of figure out if that was appropriate or not, which I'm not the one to understand if it's appropriate or not. But I know that in Springfield Housing Authority, you can't even smoke inside doors. For them to give a letter of support to a marijuana facility is kind of ironic. But moving forward, you know, obviously they're kind of down the street on Congress Street, so probably I understand there is no reason. It is a really great location. I'm gonna say the least. But when it comes to the residents, specifically when you talk about the North End, you know, and I was really not going to say much. And the issue is that when you have a neighborhood that's been over policed, when you have a neighborhood that, yes, you know, C3 came in there and we've cleaned some things up, and that's great. And I've heard from the neighborhood board that, you know, the methadone clinic was actually an issue more than a help. And we understand that the opiate addiction is a real thing. And the truth and the fact of the matter is it's in the pudding. That actual location, when it moved to the South End, all of us understood completely what that caused. But one thing that I can't do is, and I can't think and say that the opiate or the methadone clinic is the same and relative to what a marijuana dispensary can bring and the element. Because one thing is, we have yet to open one in the city of Springfield, and we haven't seen the traffic. You know, and not understanding and knowing certain things creates a level of uncertainty. That communication is paramount, and it's clear that I think that obviously she has a great public safety leadership team. We understand that, but on the flip side, you know, if if there was, the communication was key in not looking the legal sense of it, because we understand that she has, or the applicant, I apologize, I don't mean to say it this way, but the applicant has crossed her I's and dotted her T's and made sure that she is in her legal rights to transfer the license, to seek another location because obviously, because of COVID, the other prior location didn't pan out for her. I supported her before. It's hard for me not to support it because obviously the guidelines and the confines of me saying no can't go back to the neighborhood board because alleged it would be adjudicated against me if this was to get to the next step. Let's say that if it wasn't to pass. So, I think right now, which I think that Mr. Roldan had stipulated when it came to the neighborhood, the importance is communication and obviously letting time supersede itself. And I'm going to end with this and just one last question, and it's for Six Bricks. Ms. Shubrick, when you reached out to the neighborhood board about the community meeting, can you give me a time frame from the time you contacted to the neighborhood to the time that your meeting happened? If it was 2 weeks before the meeting, 5 days before the meeting, 3 days before the meeting, just to give it a little of a context to when you had your community, because I know you said that you posted it. And I know legally, right, with the regulations with the Cannabis Control Commission, you have to put it out there and put it out on the newspaper. So it's not something that you wanted to do; it's something that you had to do. But realistically, some people in the North End don't necessarily read the Republican, and obviously that's not your fault, and I completely understand that. But when you reached out to whoever in particular you spoke to in those neighborhood boards, and which was 23 people on a Zoom call is actually well attended anyway, how much time frame was given in between to say, let it be a Friday, and you said the meeting was on Wednesday? I'm just trying to get a context of that. How much was the time frame in between that from the email or the phone call that you reached out to that neighborhood, in particular, New North Citizens Council?
Ms. Schubert, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the question. I believe it was a few days prior. It could have been 3 or 4 days to acknowledge that we were going to have the community outreach meeting. I can validate that. I think it's also important to note that on top of it being in the Republican, it was also in El Pueblo Latina as well, because we tried to ensure that we had a diverse base in terms of those who were aware of the meeting. There's a few other items that you mentioned that I hope to have the opportunity to address in the next meeting. I think in short, our hope is that not only will today or tomorrow be a method for us to continue to communicate with the New North Citizens Council, but it's understanding the work for us is really just beginning as we think about entering that neighborhood potentially and continuing to work with the neighborhood councils. I get it. I live here in the city of Springfield. It is not our hope to open doors and close the door on communication, which is why we made mention of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee and the hopes that we can engage folks from that community regularly and continue to engage them as we look at successfully opening. I hope that answers your question, City Councilor Gomez.
I was just looking for just the actual time frame. Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just asking for a legit, just that was my one question. With that being said, that's all that I have, and I yield. If I have any more questions, I'll leave it for our next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Councilor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to reserve these comments for the next meeting, but I think that they're relevant today, given the fact that we do have several weeks in between this meeting and when we take our final vote. It might be good for both parties, both the proponents and the opponents, to consider, my comments and everything that was heard tonight. When we think back as how we got here, when we think back of all of the hard work that this body put into creating what I continue to call and describe as the best marijuana zoning ordinance in the entire country. And I really, really, truly mean that, and I believe that. We have the best marijuana zoning ordinance anywhere in the country. And the reason for that is because of all of the hard work and effort that we put into creating this piece of legislation. We spent back-to-back days in the council chamber for 4 hours on a Monday and 4 hours on a Tuesday, on back-to-back days, going through this ordinance line by line. And what we created was an ordinance that paved the way for this sort of business to exist in our city. And what we were aiming for, and what Councilor Walsh was saying, was exactly right. This is exactly what we were aiming for you know, these locations to be located away from residences, to be located away from schools, to be, you know, the proximity from each other. It has to be a certain distance. In terms of zoning, it meets all of the criteria. If it didn't, it wouldn't be before us. It has to meet that criteria first before it's presented for a special permit. In addition to that, the applicant meets the criteria of what we envision. This would open up, you know, this would open up doors for this particular applicant, or this sort of applicant, someone who meets the social equity criteria at the state level, someone who is homegrown here from the city of Springfield. That's exactly what we envisioned, and giving this opportunity to people that meet that criteria. With that said, this neighborhood has some really valid concerns, and those concerns cannot be completely ignored. And I hope that they're not completely ignored. We have a very active neighborhood council, many members who have dedicated their entire lives to cleaning up that neighborhood and making it into what it is today. I grew up in the North End, and when I compare the North End to what it is today, it's like night and day. And it's because of all of the hard work of the neighborhood council, and all of the time and effort that they put into cleaning up this neighborhood. And they have very vivid memories of what it used to be and what it's like to live in a neighborhood that's oversaturated with businesses and organizations that have a negative impact on their neighborhood. And they worked really hard to clean that up. So I say all that to say that I hope that those concerns are not ignored. From what I hear tonight from the applicant, I'm confident that this business and these petitioners will work very hard to keep that communication open, and to make sure that those concerns are not completely ignored. And so I think that, you know, with the time that we have between now and the time that we take our final vote, I think it would be good for the applicant to think about different ways that they can have a more positive impact on this neighborhood and address their concerns, you know, before we take our vote. And if this application and this request is approved by the city council, I just hope that both sides work towards having a positive relationship and find a way to work together to make positive changes for that neighborhood. And that's all, Mr. President. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Seeing no further questions in the queue, I'll just end with the fact that Liberty, which is in your ward, Councilor Ramos, is open. And I actually went by there today. So in between now and the next 2 weeks when we meet again, it might make sense for you know, folks to drive by the location and see what happens there. Can I have a motion to continue this item? And for the proponents and the opponents, we will be back before the city council to have a final vote on Monday, November 7th.
So moved in November's, we already passed. Sorry, Mr. President.
Councilor Gomez, so there's a motion. It's getting.
Yeah, he's mixed up. We ain't going backwards.
We ain't going back. We moving forward.
2020 gotta go.
Mr. President, did you say December 7th?
Yes, December 7th at 6:30.
The anniversary of Pearl Harbor?
Yes, Councilor Walsh, and thank you and your family for your service.
And yours too, Gold Star family.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on continuing this item?
On continuing item number 2, Councilor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton? Counselor Fenton?
Fenton has recused himself. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed that. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown absent. Counselor Hurst?
Present.
Can we please acknowledge Counselor Brown as being present?
Counselor Brown is present. Counselor Brown, do you want to vote in favor of a continuance or not in favor?
I couldn't hear you.
Would you like to vote in favor of a continuance or not in favor of a continuance for this item?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes, this item will be continued until our next regular meeting on December 7th. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before the council?
There is no further business. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the council will go into
I apologize. Madam Clerk, executive session has been postponed. I actually thought this meeting, when there was only one special permit on the docket, would end a little earlier, but unfortunately it did not, with two items on the docket today. So we have postponed that executive session, and I will brief counselors as to when it will occur, probably sometime either next week or in the week after Thanksgiving. So I didn't want to hold our attorneys up.
Okay, so there is no further business before the council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We stand adjourned until December 7th at our next regular meeting at 6:30.